Well, thank you very much, and thank you to our witnesses. Thank you for your years of dedicated service. We are here today to discuss Army modernization. Before we talk about equipping the force, I want to talk about manning the force. The FY 2015 President's budget request draws down total Army in strength to 450,000 active, 335,000 National Guard, and 195,000 Reserve by the end of FY 17. If budget caps remain unchanged, the Army will be required to cut even deeper, reducing the active Army to 420,000, the National Guard to 315,000, and the Reserve to 185,000. If we learned anything about assumptions regarding national security and ground forces, it's usually that they are wrong. That is why it's important for us to get Army modernization right in the current fiscal year. The Army's fiscal year 2015 budget request for $120.5 billion represents the 5th straight year the Army has budgeted for an amount that was lower than the previous year. Given the fact that personnel costs are 46% and O&M costs are 35% of the Army's budget, the Army's approach to the 2015 budget is to prioritize near-term readiness. Accordingly, the Army's budget request for investment accounts, procurement, R&D, test, and evaluation is $20.1 billion, or 17% of the Army's total budget. In short, this means that the Army's modernization efforts will continue to be vulnerable as full sequestration reemerges in FY 2016. This subcommittee appreciates the immense planning challenges the Army faces, given the lack of budget certainty on Capitol Hill. This subcommittee also notes that the Army still does not know what its overseas contingency operations funding is going to be for FY 2015. That being said, I'd like to highlight 4 specific issues that are of concern, with the hope that our witnesses will elaborate on them during the hearing. First, I have major reservations about the Army Aviation Restructure Initiative's proposal to remove Apache helicopters from the National Guard. Our National Guard Apache units located in 10 states have performed superbly. I continue to believe that we've made significant investments in the National Guard to make the Guard a fighting force able to supplement and augment our active duty forces in times of need. Any decision to undo these investments must be carefully considered given the global challenges we face today in Europe and in Asia. Second, the budget request for Army aircraft is $4.4 billion, a $432 million increase from 2014 enacted levels. This includes funding for AH-64 Apache Block 3s, remanufactured and new build CH-47 Chinooks, the utility and medical version of the Black Hawk, and the UH-72 light utility helicopter that is manufactured in my state of Mississippi. While this is welcome news for the helicopter industrial base, I can assure you, this subcommittee is concerned about sequestration's impact on multi-year procurement of the UH-60 Black Hawk and the Army's acquisition plan for an armed aerial scout helicopter. While the Army plans to use Apache helicopter teams with unmanned aircraft, I am concerned about the long-term cost and sustainment issues associated with this proposal. Thirdly, with the termination of the ground combat vehicle, the Army has few programs to modernize its combat and tactical wheeled vehicle fleet. With the exception of the procurement of the Joint Light Tactical Wheeled Vehicle, the Army does not have a program which provides an entirely new platform. The Paladin Integrated Management, the Armored Multipurpose Vehicle, Stryker Hull upgrades, Abrams tank, Bradley Fighting Vehicle upgrades, and Stryker combat vehicle fleets are based on existing platforms that are no longer in production. Accordingly, I am interested in learning about the Army's plans for vehicle modernization. And finally, General Odierno has testified on numerous occasions that a fully funded Army reset program is critical to ensuring that equipment returning from overseas missions is recovered and restored for future Army requirements. The Army and Marine Corps previously testified they will require overseas contingency operations funding for equipment reset for 3 years after the last piece of equipment returns from Afghanistan. The Army must face the reality that this may not be achievable in the current fiscal environment. So, gentlemen and Mr. Chairman, let me conclude by observing that our Army continues to perform with remarkable courage, professionalism, and effectiveness despite incredibly difficult circumstances. And I had the opportunity to visit West Point in February. I encourage my colleagues to do so. During my visit, I had lunch and spoke with some outstanding cadets from my home state of Mississippi. I'm so proud of them. It is the solemn duty of this subcommittee to ensure that these young leaders have the resources to execute their mission in the defense of our nation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.